What has this last 2 weeks been like for you, watching this unrest in our country and everything play out?
Wow, it's been disturbing. It's been troubling. It has tapped into a barrage of emotions from anger to frustration to weariness to exhaustion, because, I've been having conversations even before we got to George Floyd. We had the killing of Ahmaud Arbery down here in Georgia.
Yeah.
And so just talking to people, particularly in the white community that still didn't get it at that point, who now get it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been all of that. And to think that these young people over the last several years who have been bringing to our attention over and over again about Black Lives Matter and the need to have reform in our police departments across this nation, to look at the issues of justice and equity across all of America and our structures and systems, being that continual outcry, and now it's spilling over collectively at the same time all over America, with those on the nonviolent protest side, with the presence of those who've infiltrated from the extreme left, extreme right, those that are intent on destroying America. I've just been saying over and over again, America, we have a choice to make. We can either continue on the destructive pattern that we started our nation in. We were founded in violence. We perpetuated violence against the Native Americans. We perpetuated violence against African Americans, and oppression and just cruelty, inhumane treatment, and it goes forward through, Jim Crowism, segregation. And the movement that my father led was a disruption. It was an interruption to get our attention then, to say, hey, we have to reorder our values. We have to recognize the dignity of African Americans, and we have to make sure that we include them in an equitable fashion in America, because we built the country with free labor. And we didn't listen to his voice. And he told us after he got the Nobel Peace Prize, we have a choice. We still have a choice. And I'm going to say it now. We still have a choice. Nonviolent coexistence or violent co-annihilation. And it's right before our eyes. Are we going to choose the pathway of those who've been on the streets of America for the past 6, 7, 8 years, saying no justice, no peace? Or are we going to go down the pathway of those that have been very intent on destroying America, which is a pathway we kind of set up, as Daddy said, America being the greatest purveyor of violence. And so, hey, it's before us. I choose nonviolence. I continue in that work. I still believe in it. I know in the end that if we're going to get to permanent peace, which means justice, that nonviolence has to be the way.
She was standing by the door and she said, Mama, something going on with my family. And I say, why you say that? She said, because I hear them saying my daddy's name on TV. She wanted to know how he died. And the only thing that I can tell is he couldn't breathe.
You told a very poignant story about watching George Floyd's daughter and what you understood about her situation.
I was 5 when my father was assassinated brutally. She's 6, so we're the same age. And immediately when this happened and I heard that he had a 6-year-old daughter, it took me back to when my father was brutally taken from us. And I know the pain that comes from that, losing a daddy at such a young age, and the things that she's gonna have to wrestle with. In particular, the anger and having to guard against hating. My mother used to always tell us in our household, we're not to hate the man or the person who killed your father. We're not gonna hate the man. And she said that over and over again. And yet I went on a journey where I did hate for a while. I hated white people, and especially white males. And that journey was in my 20s and into my early 30s. Now, most people didn't know it because of the kind of household I grew up in. But I was dealing with that and the anger inside and the rage inside.
That's right, Daddy changed the world. Wait, we don't. He did what?
Daddy changed the world.
We gotta change America. I mean, she said it to us. My daddy changed the world. She spoke prophetically out of her mouth because we will change the world now. And it's so sad that it always has to be something so brutal. Why can't we just do the right thing? And I'm saying to my white brothers and sisters, come out of the confines of your privilege all over America. There's some standing side by side in the social justice movement. They've done it since the 50s and 60s, but they're those in the places of influence and power that have the choice today to shift things and to change things and to deal internally in their institutions and their corporate environments to deal with anti-racism, create an anti-racism environment. The money is good, it's needed and should be invested in the people who are doing this work, but internal change has to happen as well. Heart change, structure change, and policy change.
There are so many people, both Black and white, that are looking in different places to understand what is the next step and what needs to happen.
It's a lot of next steps, but for my white brothers and sisters, do the anti-racism work. It has to be done. The tragedy is that we donate all this money, and I'm not saying don't donate the money, because that money is needed. We got to run parallel tracks. That money is needed for the real work of changing these structures and these systems and creating more just and equitable circumstances. But there also has to be that internal work that happens, because otherwise we'll be putting a Band-Aid on it and it'll come off so easily. It'll just happen all over again. Ibram Kendi has a book around how to become an anti-racist, because all white people need to become an anti-racist, because believe it or not, unfortunately, we grew up in this society and our collective conscience, if you're on the white side, whether you believe it or not, you're a racist. We got to look at policy reform with our police department. Obama was on the right track with the 21st century report from his task force.
Yep.
We need to be encouraging and demanding that our law enforcement community across this nation begin to put those recommendations into practice while we're changing some of the legislation around chokeholds and excessive force, etc.
What would you say to the entertainment community and how they can step up in this time?
I would suggest that they use their influences. So many people have the ear of people who can make some changes instantly. Use that right now. Pick up the phone, put the pressure on. We've got to see changes. And the hot button area is in this police reform. You know, we gotta see, entertainers need to be putting it on to talk about this reform on all of their platforms. Many of them are connected to people who are legislators in Congress, who are on the side that has for so long denied us the opportunity to change America. Use it like never before. This is not the time to be comfortable. And don't just do the Facebook post. Don't just do the social media post. That's not enough. Hollywood also needs to begin to use their creative platforms to tell the historical stories and the current stories. I love entertainment, but this is serious now. We got to put out other films, other works, because there's something about the power of media and entertainment in our minds. And people need to hear something different that reflects the America we want to be. Put out films that reflect the America we should be. My father wrote a book, Where We Go From Here, Chaos and Community. Everybody pick it up. He has a blueprint in the back of that book that had we embraced back then, we would have seen equity come in our education system, in our housing system, in our economic system. And so I'm encouraging people to read that book.
Tell me about the virtual protest, the 7-day virtual protest.
Some people are still sheltered in place in this nation. Some people are in areas where they can't get to cities where some of the protests are that are going on. And so we established an online platform for people to have their voices heard. So we're collecting people's ideas and thoughts, but we're also focusing people on solutions.
So how can people join in that 7-day protest?
The 7-day protest is at the King Center's Facebook page and on YouTube, King Center. I believe it's on Twitter as well. They can come and join us 7 o'clock every night. And we're going to just be hearing things that you're saying. We're going to be talking about some things. We're going to have people popping in. We have to continue to raise our voices even online while people are protesting in the streets and clarifying some things on those platforms as well.